They thought it was simple. One more black family in a white neighborhood, another inconvenient truth they'd ignore until, well, he made them face it. This is his story, raw, relentless, and rooted in history. You can almost imagine him staring across the manicured lawns, a deep Kentucky sun gleaming off his worn work boots as he watches the mailbox get replaced again, this time with yet another complaint taped to the door. They never expected him to be the one with the deed. They never expected him to own the land they'd been gossiping about. They never expected anything beyond his skin. But that's the thing people never expect. He knew exactly what he'd do and what he would say. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the moment his world looked so ordinary you'd have dismissed it, until everything cracked wide open. It started with a perimeter fence appointment. You know how it is? They order a new fence, system drops the call to the neighbor on record, he answers, not because he's the owner, just the guy who pays the mowing bill. So there he is, mowing his front strip, sweat dripping into his eyes, when the contractor asks for permission to access the neighbor's lot next door. He's confused, so he asks which neighbor, and that's when the contractor gives him the legal description, township, section, quarter section, all that bureaucratic nonsense. He shrugs and tells them to talk to his old neighbor, Mr. Palmer. But later that day he gets a certified mail notice. Attempt to access land. Please respond. He reads it and shakes his head. First real sign things have gotten personal. He calls a lawyer friend down in Nashville who laughs at first. You own what now? Until he finds the deed. That night, under a single desk lamp, he spreads the deed in front of him. His name, exactly the same as on his driver's license, is inked onto the legal description, Tract B of the Wilson parcel. He texts his friends, guess who's got land on Maplewood? They fire back laughing emojis, but he's quiet. Because he knows once the laughter stops, the real work begins. Good people think it's about justice or paperwork, but it's about history. He grew up hearing his grandmother whisper about how her father, a sharecropper in Mississippi, dreamt of buying land but never got the chance. That dream flickered through generations until it died. But now here it was again, an ink and warranty clause. The land he didn't even know he owned. He remembers the night he told his wife. She was stirring spaghetti sauce and he slid the deed across the counter. She blinked, sauce dripping from her wooden spoon, and read it once, then twice. At first she laughed. Then she cried. He hugged her, felt that ache in his chest, history pressing its weight down, saying, "You can't let it slip away." They agreed to hire title insurance, confirm property taxes, find out if any liens or easements existed. The next morning, over takeout coffee, they sit in his study, legal pad full of numbers and names. Title company says taxes unpaid since 2019. Turns out previous owners vanished, possibly heirs and Civil War records lost in courthouse fire. They scramble to appeal tax sale notices. More mail arrives, from the HOA president, "Stop mowing our plot next door," and from the same fence contractor asking for access again. He wants to laugh but he resists. This is bigger. He hires a paralegal, his old college roommate, to comb the county records. No easement for the fence. No 20-year adverse possession claims. The neighbor, Mrs. Carter, has been mowing and maintaining that land thinking it's part of her yard for years. She even built a children's playhouse on it. But legally it may all belong to him. He drives by, watches the Carter kids running around unawares. It looks like any suburban block. But legally? Could all be fireworks. He knows the law. Property rights are unromantic, cold. They can evaporate your breakfast, your kid's swing set if ignored. And folks don't like property rights they didn't know existed. So he writes a letter. "Hello neighbor, just received notice. Apparently this land belongs to me. I'd like to talk." He delivers it in person at the back fence. The Carters stop mid-pull on the hose. She reads. He watches. Her face shifts. Confusion, disbelief, anger. She squares her shoulders, says, "You can't seriously mean that." He nods. She says, "Not another activist story." He says, "I'm not an activist. I'm the owner." Later that night, he hears her husband pacing behind their fence, muttering over the letter. He imagines the conversations. Neighborly chit-chat turned into legal warfare. He doesn't sleep. Every siren, every distant engine feels like a threat. He dreams of deeds and dust, of ancestors turning in their graves, of land unspoken for. Then his phone rings at dawn. It's the HOA. They've been alerted to a trespass. They want him to cease and desist from mowing our property. He laughs bitterly. No property, just old attitudes. He schedules a mediation. He meets her in the neighborhood rec center. She brings her parents. The mediator asks questions. Do you believe you own the land? She looks at him, shrugs, and says it belongs to the neighborhood. He presses. The deed says it belongs to him. She says the playhouse, the picnic table, the memories belong to them. He tells her they can keep using the land, lease it even, but legally it's not theirs. The parents exchange glances. He feels the weight of history, the ancestors who couldn't own, the dream twisted into bureaucracy. He wonders, will compassion win or courts? He leaves, head aching. A few days later, a local reporter knocks on his door. We heard the story, landowner evicted by history? He answers the door wary. She asked for comment. He says it's about doing right even when no one is watching. She thanks him and walks away, phone buzzing with potential headlines. Then the storm crashes. A neighbor group meets in a home across the street. He hears snippets. He's a troublemaker. This is what happens when they think they own something. We need to protect our property values. His stomach tightens. They vote, without including him, to petition the city council to rezone the parcel common area, effectively nullifying his ownership through government action. He hears about it through another letter, backed with signatures and accusations. His hands shake. He thinks, this is what real risk looks like. Not fences or mowing, this is power to erase. He meets with his lawyer. They plan. He researches comparable cases, black landowners suppressed by zoning abuses, by eminent domain tools, by neighbor pressure and racial bias. He reads cases where courts upheld title even when communities rallied against them, but also ones where judges bent to politics, declaring political definitions over legal documents. He sleeps with one eye open. Then something unexpected, a signal of truce. An envelope slid under his door. Inside, a note from Mrs. Carter. It reads, I never meant for things to go this far. He reads and rereads. Does she want to settle? Parcel division? Shared use? Or is it a trick? He feels hope, cold and uncertain. Then he sees an invitation. Let's talk, Sunday afternoon. He picks up the phone, calls the lawyer. They schedule. He spends the week preparing, gathering documents, mental notes, calm words, but also resolve. He reviews maps of the land. He recalls when he first walked the boundary decades ago with a neighbor that ghosted. He recalls the feeling, nothing but possibility. Sunday arrives. He stands in the living room, the deed on the table, a glass of water in hand. The doorbell rings. He opens. There she stands, the Carter kids beside her. Their father stays behind. Hearts beating. Exchanging firm nods. She enters. They sit. He says, thanks for coming. She says, I didn't know. Her voice trails. He gathers calm. He says, we both love this land. She says, we do. We've lived with it, gardened, even planted memorial trees. He nods. He offers, let's find a solution. She looks at the deed on the table. Silence. He wants peace, but the air tastes like legal clash. Then she says something he never expected. What if I said, I'd rather you quietly transfer the deed to me than go to court? He stops. That's not peace, that's something else entirely. Greed? Fear? Manipulation? Mistrust? He doesn't know yet. Her kids stare at him, genuine curiosity. The playhouse looms outside the window. The deed sits between them. The tension fractures, sharp. He feels his grandmother's eyes on him. She's whispering, what you choose now echoes beyond you. He stands, reaches for his glass. She stands too. Her father watches from the hallway. Time slows. Choices stretch. He breathes. Then the doorbell rings again, and this time outside. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. The knock comes again, firm, impatient, cutting through the heavy silence between them like a razor. He hesitates, caught between the cautious détente unfolding in his living room and the unknown now waiting outside his door. Mrs. Carter tilts her head as if she too feels the sudden shift in the atmosphere. He walks slowly to the door, every step echoing with ancestral weight, and opens it, to find a man in a blazer holding a clipboard and wearing a smug, rehearsed expression that says everything before he even speaks. Good afternoon, the man says. I'm with the Maplewood HOA Enforcement Committee. We need to talk about your unauthorized occupancy of Parcel B. His heart skips. Unauthorized? That's his name on the deed. You have no right to build or occupy or alter the space in any way, the man continues, voice oily with politeness. We're moving forward with a community action to reclaim the land for common use. Behind him, 2 more HOA board members stand. One woman scribbling notes, the other filming with a phone. He breathes deeply. Mrs. Carter watches silently, no longer seated but standing now, uneasy. You're wrong, he says steady, I own that land. The man holds out a printed packet, an HOA resolution, signed by more than 30 households, including neighbors he's waved to for years, shared barbecue with at the block party, even helped shovel snow last winter. The betrayal hits cold. The man says they'll be filing a petition with the city to begin rezoning. We suggest you vacate the premises and remove any materials or lawn care equipment currently in use. He almost laughs. He doesn't even have a lawn chair out there, let alone materials. But this isn't about chairs, it's about power. About exclusion masked as procedure. About erasure dressed in paperwork. He doesn't take the packet. He just closes the door. Inside, Mrs. Carter is pale. I didn't know about this, she mutters. They never, but he cuts her off not unkindly. It's fine, he says, though it isn't. Her kids look up at him and he wonders what they're learning right now, about land, about neighbors, about truth. She gathers them to leave. Can we talk again? She asks. He nods, but he's already turning back to the deed. Back to the fight. That night he emails his lawyer and outlines everything, HOA tactics, threats, the video. His lawyer responds with 3 words, we're filing tomorrow. That changes everything. No more polite letters. No more vague hopes. This will be a legal battle now, one where intent matters less than facts, where sympathy holds no weight against signatures and zoning maps. The next morning they file a quiet title action in the county court, demanding legal recognition of his sole ownership over the parcel. The suit includes the original deed, the tax documents, and a full history of the land dating back to the early 1900s, when the Wilson family, a group of formerly enslaved siblings, bought a swath of land just north of the city. He discovers the original plat map, faded, water-damaged, but unmistakably naming Wilson heirs, on the tract that eventually became Parcel B. For him, this isn't just ownership, it's inheritance. And now he's defending it not just for himself, but for every ancestor who was denied title, voice, or place. The lawsuit shakes the neighborhood. Suddenly, it's not just whispers behind closed doors. It's emails, phone trees, special HOA meetings packed with folding chairs and us versus him talking points. A Facebook group forms, Maplewood Neighbors United, and fills with accusations, he's suing us. He's tearing the community apart. He's weaponizing race. One post shows a photo of him walking his dog with a nasty caption, guess who's trying to own more than his fair share? Another features drone footage of the disputed parcel, claiming it's communal property by historic usage. But history doesn't lie, and it's on his side. Still, the pressure mounts. One night, someone throws eggs at his garage. Another time, he finds his trash bins turned over, contents strewn. Then comes the worst, an anonymous note shoved into his mailbox typed in all caps. This neighborhood was never yours. Leave. He reads it once, folds it up, and places it next to the deed in his drawer. A reminder. The past never leaves quietly. His lawyer moves fast. They subpoena the HOA minutes, proving they tried to nullify his ownership through illegal rezoning threats before any formal complaint was filed. The city planning department confirms the HOA's request to rezone was denied due to lack of jurisdiction. Individual parcels can't be seized without eminent domain or a purchase. Which means, their plan is unraveling. But victory is still far. Then unexpectedly an ally appears. Mrs. Thompson, a white woman in her 70s who's lived on the street since the 1980s, reaches out. She remembers when the land was untouched, a patch of trees and wildflowers that no one claimed. She even remembers hearing about the Wilson family. This was theirs long before the HOA ever existed, she says, handing over an old neighborhood newsletter with a black and white photo of the area, including what is now Parcel B. That photo becomes Exhibit C in the case. More neighbors begin to waver. A few quietly approach him. I didn't sign the petition. I just want things to go back to normal, they pressured us. He appreciates it but knows it won't help in court. Only documents matter now. Then comes the pretrial conference. He arrives at the courthouse with his lawyer, dressed in his best navy suit, the same tie he wore to his daughter's graduation. Across the room sit the HOA's lawyers, 3 of them, plus a few board members including the man with the smug clipboard. Their lead counsel argues that community stewardship outweighs dormant property claims. His lawyer counters with the deed, the tax records, the title, and the city's own denial of rezoning. The judge nods but says, "We'll hear arguments next month." A delay. But also an opportunity. In the meantime, the media story resurfaces, this time from a national outlet. Black man fights to keep his land amid HOA retaliation. The story goes viral. His inbox floods. Strangers write to him, some offering support, others vile messages dripping with hatred. But one email stands out. From a woman in Atlanta who says, "I think my great-grandfather once owned land near Maplewood. Wilson was his name. Do you know if your deed connects to a James Wilson?" He pauses. James Wilson. That's the same name on the 1906 plat map. She offers scanned copies of family letters, including one that mentions, "the land in Kentucky we never reclaimed." The pieces start falling into place. Not only is he the legal owner, he may also be the rightful heir. That night he calls his grandmother. She's 92, sharp as ever. When he tells her everything, she pauses and says, "We used to talk about that land like it was a ghost. We thought it was gone forever." He doesn't cry often, but he cries then. The next day he returns to Parcel B, not to mow, not to measure, but just to stand. He imagines the Wilsons walking it before roads were paved. Imagines them dreaming of permanence, of security, of place. But dreams don't survive unless someone fights for them. So he does. Depositions begin. The HOA argues he has no practical ownership, since he hasn't built on it. But that's not the law. His lawyer holds up the deed, the map, the photo, the denied rezoning request. The judge listens. Then asks, "Do you acknowledge this man holds the title to the land?" The HOA lawyer stumbles. Finally says, "Technically yes." It's the crack they didn't want to make. The judge sets the final hearing date, September 12th. 1 month to go. Tensions escalate. Rumors fly that the HOA is considering a countersuit. That they may try to push a hostile purchase. Or worse, have the city declare the land abandoned and seize it. So he prepares. He fortifies. He reaches out to land rights attorneys, to historians, to black land ownership advocacy groups. He sets up a legal fund. Donations pour in. News stations ask to interview him. A documentary filmmaker shows up at his door. He hesitates but then says yes. The story has to be told. All of it. Even the ugly parts. Especially those. The hearing date arrives like a storm cloud. He wears the same navy suit. Brings the deed. His grandmother watches via live stream from her assisted living center. The judge listens. Arguments fly. The HOA presses the idea of historical use. His lawyer pushes back with legal right. They argue for hours. Then at last the judge says, "I'll render my decision in 2 weeks." 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks of tension, of silence, of unknowns. That night he walks the parcel again. It's quiet. A single squirrel. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift black voices and expose hidden truths. A single squirrel darts across the edge of the lot, tail twitching like it too senses something is about to shift. He stands alone, the evening sky folding into itself above Parcel B, shadows long and sharp, as if the land is holding its breath with him. 2 weeks. That's what the judge gave them. 2 weeks to wait while the system decides whether a black man with legal title and generational ties can actually keep the land he owns, or whether an HOA with money and malice can erase it with a technicality and a neighborhood smile. The anxiety is constant. Every phone buzz feels like it could be the court's decision. He wakes up at 3 a.m. more often than not, scrolling emails, checking alerts, rereading the deed like scripture. On the 6th day the court clerk calls. The judge has issued a tentative ruling, she says. His heart stops. It will be finalized pending review of supplemental materials from both parties. He asks what that means but she won't say. Just that they have 3 days to respond. He hangs up and calls his lawyer. They meet that afternoon, spread out a stack of documents on the table. Every plat, map, affidavit, boundary survey, aerial photo. The HOA, according to new filings, is now claiming a previously lost agreement from 1995 granting Parcel B as common use space, despite that no such document was ever registered with the county. It's a Hail Mary, desperate and sloppy but dangerous. Because if they convince the judge that a historical agreement exists, even a verbal one, it could complicate the quiet title claim. His lawyer is furious. This is manufactured, she says. And it's borderline fraud. They draft a response attacking the HOA's new claim, citing land records that go back decades with no mention of this agreement. They attach deposition clips, city denial letters, and statements from longtime residents like Mrs. Thompson who remember the parcel as unclaimed. They file it before midnight. Then the wait begins again. Meanwhile, the pressure keeps building. Someone keys his car. Twice. He doesn't even bother reporting it the second time. His daughter, who's home from college, finds a flyer taped to their front door one morning that reads in red marker, "We don't want a lawsuit in our neighborhood. Drop it." She holds it in her hands like it's toxic. He gently takes it from her, crumples it, throws it away, and hugs her without saying a word. She asks him, "Why are they doing this?" And he says, "Because I didn't back down." But inside he knows it's more than that. It's because he dared to own something they thought belonged to them by default. The final ruling comes 1 week later. The judge's opinion, 18 pages long, arrives by email. His lawyer reads it aloud over the phone. Her voice trembles only once, when the judge writes, "Legal title unbroken by adverse claim or easement, grants Mr. Daniels sole ownership of Parcel B." It's a victory. A massive one. The court upholds the deed. The judge orders the HOA to cease and desist all actions, threats, or filings against him, and denies their retroactive agreement claim as invalid. He closes his eyes and breathes. For the first time in months, he feels the ground beneath him is his, not just in paperwork but in truth. He drives to Parcel B that evening and stands in the center. The grass is slightly overgrown from weeks of neglect, but it looks different now. Not just a battleground. A beginning. The next week the news explodes. Black landowner wins landmark case against HOA. It trends online. Civil rights groups call it a milestone in the fight for black land retention. He's asked to speak at a legal conference in D.C., then a land rights panel at Howard. Donations pour into his legal fund. His daughter starts writing a paper about it for her sociology class. Mrs. Thompson bakes him a cake, carrot with cream cheese frosting, and delivers it with tears in her eyes. "Your grandfather would be proud," she says. He thanks her. But not everyone celebrates. That same night, a group of neighbors posts a new petition on their website titled, "Remove Daniels from Maplewood." It calls for his expulsion from the HOA, citing irreparable harm to community harmony. It garners signatures, over 40 in just 3 days. The same people who lost in court are now trying to force him out socially, structurally. He talks with his lawyer again. "Can they do this?" he asks. "Try to remove me just for asserting my rights?" She says no, not legally. But HOAs can make life difficult. Very difficult. They start by denying his home renovation request. Then they send fines for minor infractions. Trash bins too close to curb, grass half an inch over code. His mailbox is reported for being non-compliant. Then an architectural review board requests access to inspect his property for violations. It's clear now, the war didn't end with the court ruling. It just changed form. And just when he starts thinking it can't get worse, it does. He gets a certified letter. This one isn't from the HOA. It's from a private law firm representing a man named Clark Whitaker. The name means nothing to him at first. But the letter makes it clear, Mr. Whitaker is filing a competing ownership claim, asserting that he is the true heir to the Wilson family's land, and that the deed Mr. Daniels used is a clerical error resulting in improper transfer. His stomach drops. Another lawsuit. Another battle. This time not against an HOA, but against a man who says the land belongs to his family. The irony cuts deep. A white man now claiming blood rights to land bought by freed black people in 1906. He reads the letter again. Whitaker is demanding a full suspension of title enforcement until the matter of lineage can be resolved. His lawyer is already on it. She calls in a genealogist. She reviews historical census records. They dive into old probate filings, church ledgers, handwritten land transfer documents from the early 1900s. It's a race now, not against rules but against time. If Whitaker can introduce enough doubt into the chain of title, the court might freeze enforcement, reopen the claim, or worst of all, void the deed. The documentary filmmaker catches wind of this and shows up for an interview. "Did you ever think it would go this far?" she asks. "No," he says, "but I should have. Because this isn't just about grass and fences and playhouses anymore. It's about the legacy of black land loss in America. A pattern repeating itself, masked as bureaucracy. They discover something unexpected." Whitaker's claim is based on a distant relative who was married into the Wilson family, but the name was changed and the land never passed to them. In fact, they moved to Ohio in the 1930s. But Whitaker's lawyers find a will. A contested will. Undated and signed, but containing language that bequeaths all family land to my heirs regardless of residence. It's weak. But in court, even weak documents can create chaos. His lawyer prepares for the new hearing. "We're going to bury this," she says. "You're the rightful owner." He believes her. He wants to believe her. But then something else happens. A knock at the door. It's late. 10:13 p.m. He opens it, and there, standing in the porch light, is a man in a gray suit, tall, clean-cut, mid-40s. Not aggressive, but direct. "Mr. Daniels?" the man says. "My name is Clark Whitaker." Daniels stares. "You've been sending lawyers." Whitaker nods. "I thought it was time we spoke man to man." Daniels doesn't invite him in. Whitaker doesn't ask. He steps forward just enough to stand in the light. "I don't want your house," he says. "I don't even want trouble. I just want what's mine." "It's not yours," Daniels replies evenly. "You're wrong about that." Whitaker reaches into his coat and pulls out something wrapped in plastic. A document. "This isn't from the courthouse," he says. "It's from my grandmother's attic. We found it last week." He holds it up but doesn't hand it over. "It changes everything." Daniels narrows his eyes. "Let me see it." Whitaker shakes his head. "Not yet. I want to make a deal first." Daniels stiffens. "What kind of deal?" Whitaker looks at him, expression unreadable, and says, "You give me parcel B quietly, no press, no court, and I'll give you this document and walk away. If not, well, let's just say my family's ready to fight this all the way to the state Supreme Court." Daniels doesn't speak. Doesn't move. The document glints under the porch light, just enough for him to see the faded, curling edge of what looks like a. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift black voices and expose hidden truths. The document glints under the porch light, just enough for him to see the faded, curling edge of what looks like a page torn from a century-old ledger, something handwritten, fragile, and full of menace. Whitaker doesn't flinch. He just stands there, smug, calm, like he's holding history hostage. "You give me the land," he repeats. "I give you the document. Quiet, clean. No court. You go back to your house, I go back to mine, and no one has to dig through any more graves." Daniels stares at the man, every fiber of his being burning with the knowledge that once again, someone is trying to buy silence and call it peace. "Why do you even care about this land?" he asks finally. "You've never lived here. You didn't even know it existed until the news picked it up." Whitaker exhales, glancing out toward the street like someone might be listening. "My grandfather talked about land in Kentucky for years. Said it was part of the family's legacy. I figured it was a lie. Then I saw your face on the news. Saw the maps. That parcel? It matches the exact dimensions described in his journals." Daniels folds his arms. "That's not a claim. That's a hunch." "It's not a hunch," Whitaker shoots back. "It's blood. I have lineage." "So do I," Daniels says. "And I have a deed." The air between them sharpens. Somewhere down the street, a car alarm chirps as a door locks. Whitaker slowly tucks the document back inside his coat and says, "You've got until Friday. After that, this goes public. And when it does, your victory. It's dust." Then he walks away. No handshake. No threats. Just a promise softly spoken. Daniels closes the door without a word, palms sweating. He wants to believe it's a bluff, just more HOA-style smoke. But something about Whitaker's calmness feels off, like a man who knows the system is built for people like him, and all he has to do is show up with the right last name and the right piece of paper to make the ground shift. That night, he sits in the kitchen, the house silent, the deed spread out on the table again like a war map. His daughter joins him. "Who was that?" she asks. "A ghost," he says. She doesn't understand, but he doesn't elaborate. Not yet. The next morning he calls his lawyer. She's already heard from Whitaker's team. Yes, they're moving forward. Yes, they're filing an injunction to pause enforcement of Daniel's title until Whitaker's newly discovered evidence can be examined in probate court. "He's playing dirty," she says, trying to gum up the works with something unverified and unauthenticated. But she's worried. If the court accepts that this document even might be valid, it can delay enforcement for months, maybe longer. Daniels leans into the phone. "What do we do?" Her voice lowers. "We hit first." She files a motion the same day, demanding Whitaker's supposed evidence be entered into the public record immediately, not kept as leverage. If Whitaker is holding something that could affect ownership, he should be compelled to produce it now, not dangle it like ransom. But Whitaker resists. Claims the document is too delicate to be handled without preservation experts. Claims it can't be copied, only described. The judge, an older man with a cautious, poker-faced demeanor, agrees to a private in-camera review. Neither party gets to see it, yet. That decision enrages Daniels. "They get to hide evidence while trying to take what's mine," he says. "How is that justice?" His lawyer shakes her head. "It's not justice. It's law. Sometimes they're not the same." Over the next week, the story spirals. Local news covers the new legal twist. Talk radio picks it up. Some conservative outlets spin it into a property dispute turned race hoax. They say Daniels is trying to steal from a rightful white heir. Online trolls flood his inbox again. One email reads, "You people never stop playing victim." Another just says, "Whitaker will win. The system was built for him." That one stings because it sounds true. Even Mrs. Carter starts avoiding him. The playhouse on the disputed lot, still sitting there unused, suddenly has a "for sale" sign on it. The neighborhood isn't healing. It's hardening. Then, something unexpected. An anonymous envelope arrives at his door. Inside, no letter. Just a photograph. Black and white. Blurry. A man standing next to a Wilson and Sons land marker, circa 1910. On the back, written in pencil, L. Daniels, first holder of the deed. May 1911. His heart pounds. This is his family. This is real. Proof that his people, not Whitaker's, were the original owners. But who sent it? He scans the postmark, Chicago. No return address. He calls his lawyer. She's stunned. "This could change everything," she says. "We need a forensic expert to verify it." They send it off the next day. Then wait. Again. On the 7th day, the court schedules a hearing. 2 weeks. That's how long Daniels has to prove that this isn't just about one man's name, but about an entire family's erasure finally being reversed. He doubles down. Researches everything. Goes through his grandmother's boxes. Finds letters. Church bulletins. A wedding license with the Wilson address listed as residence. All of it helps. None of it feels like enough. Then the forensic report comes back. The photo is authentic. Dated between 1910 to 1912. The man in the picture is confirmed through facial recognition to match another Daniels ancestor from a census photo. The expert report is clear. This photograph corroborates the claim that the Daniels family held ownership of Parcel B via Wilson lineage at least as early as 1911. His lawyer beams. This destroys Whitaker's argument. But there's one problem. The court won't allow it in unless they can prove an unbroken chain of inheritance from that man to Daniels. "We need a will. A trust. Something ironclad," she says. Without it, they'll say too much time has passed and Whitaker's new discovery muddies the waters. Daniels goes back into the records. Pulls everything he can. Still, there's a gap between 1968 and 1980, when the land went unclaimed after his grandfather's death. That's where Whitaker's lawyers will attack. "You can't prove the line," they'll argue. "You can't prove intent." But he doesn't give up. That weekend, he and his daughter drive to a small church 40 miles away, the one his great-grandfather used to attend. The pastor is gone, but an older woman from the congregation remembers his family. takes them to a filing cabinet in a dusty side office. They go through records for hours. Then, in a faded brown envelope marked 1971, Reverend E. Martin, they find it. A letter. Handwritten. A transfer statement from Daniel's grandfather to his son, Daniel's father, giving full use and claim of the Maplewood tract held in our family since the Wilson grant. It's not a formal deed, but it's something. They scan it. Submit it. It's not perfect, but it closes the gap. At the hearing, the courtroom is packed. Whitaker shows up with a new lawyer, more aggressive. Daniels brings his family, his daughter, his wife, even his grandmother in a wheelchair, beaming despite her age. The judge listens, questions both sides, asks about timelines, lineage, intent. Daniel's lawyer delivers the closing argument. This isn't just about one parcel. It's about whether history means anything, whether truth, even delayed, has value. Mr. Daniels has the documents. He has the name. He has the blood. He is the rightful heir. And he's asking this court not just to recognize a title, but to honor a legacy. The judge nods, says he'll render a decision within 10 days. The tension feels unbearable. But then, 3 days later, another envelope arrives at Daniel's house. No return address. Inside one page. A typed statement. You may think you've won. But we just found something in the courthouse basement you're not going to like. You'll hear from us. C.W. And attached, a photocopy of what appears to be a quitclaim deed from 1972, signed by a J. Daniels relinquishing any and all rights to Parcel B. The ink is smudged. The notary stamp is faded. The signature unclear. But if it's real, it could undo everything. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. The paper is light in his hands but heavy on his soul. The supposed quitclaim deed from 1972, smudged, faded, stamped, and signed by someone named J. Daniels. A ghost from the past, reaching up through the cracks in time to potentially undo everything. He reads it over and over, willing it to be fake, to be forged, to be one more trick pulled from a bottomless bag by someone with power, money, and the luxury of never having to fight for legitimacy. His lawyer arrives within the hour. She examines the document under a magnifier, checking watermarks, notary stamps, comparing it to verified deeds from the same era. It looks real, she finally says, her voice flat. But there's something wrong. She flips the page, points to the property description. It's vague, too vague. Parcel B isn't even mentioned. It references a tract formerly designated as common, and doesn't include a legal metes and bounds description. It wouldn't hold up on its own in a modern court, but it could be enough to delay a decision. And delay is what Whitaker wants. Confusion is strategy. Doubt is power. And in a system designed to second-guess every Black claim to land, ambiguity is lethal. Daniels exhales slowly. We need to find out who J. Daniels really was, he says. His lawyer nods. And we have 4 days to do it before the court rules. They work around the clock. Daniels calls cousins, digs through church obituaries, asks his grandmother to name every J in the family tree. John, James, Jeremiah? None of them fit. His father had no brother. His grandfather had only daughters. There is no legitimate J. Daniels with a claim to that land. Then, finally, something breaks. A retired county clerk, contacted by Daniels' lawyer through an old mutual friend, agrees to meet. They sit in a dusty back room of the records office surrounded by decades of file cabinets. She pulls out a logbook from 1972 and points to the quitclaim entry. See this, she says. That document was processed, but flagged. Daniels leans in. Flagged? Yes, she replies. Because the person who filed it couldn't produce ID. They paid the fee in cash. The notary's commission was expired. We made a note but never got confirmation to void it. Daniels' lawyer reads the clerk's note aloud. Doc lacks verified chain. Hold for confirmation. Never finalized. It was never finalized, she says, voice rising. It was never valid. That changes everything. They file an emergency motion the next day, submitting the clerk's affidavit, the logbook copy, and a historical record from the Notary Commission office confirming the stamp on the document was expired in 1972. The judge agrees to reopen evidence for review. Whitaker's team fights it. argues that the document's intent alone should cast doubt on Daniel's chain. But this time, the judge doesn't buy it. He's heard enough. 10 days later they return to court for the last time. The room is silent. Daniel sits with his family. Whitaker sits alone. The judge enters, face unreadable. Then he speaks. After full review of all documents, filings, testimonies, and historical records, the court finds that Mr. Elias Daniels is the rightful and legal owner of Parcel B. Title is confirmed. All competing claims are dismissed with prejudice. No further motions will be heard. Just like that, it's over. The courtroom doesn't erupt. There's no applause. Just a quiet breath, held for generations, finally released. Daniels turns to his daughter, and for the first time since this all began, smiles without fear. It's not just land anymore. It's victory. It's memory made permanent. It's history restored. Outside, reporters wait. Microphones swarm. Cameras roll. "How do you feel?" someone asks. He looks past them toward the horizon, then simply says, "Like I finally came home." Weeks pass. The neighborhood adjusts. Some still avoid him. Others nod in awkward solidarity. Mrs. Carter returns, her kids riding scooters again past the now recognized Parcel B. Whitaker disappears. Rumors swirl that he moved out of state, embarrassed or angry or both. The HOA remains quiet. Legal notices now forbid them from interfering. The property is his. Fully. Forever. Daniels does something unexpected. He builds a garden. Not a house, not a shed. Just a garden. Wildflowers, vegetables, herbs. At the edge he installs a plaque, brass, simple, firm. Asterisk in memory of the Wilson family. For every hand that held this land before mine. For every name erased and every deed denied. This land remembers. And so do we. Asterisk. Neighbors walk by. Some stop. Some keep going. One day, a white teenager on a bike reads the plaque and asks, "What's it mean?" Daniels replies, "It means the land never gave up on us. And neither did he." This story isn't just about land. It's about legacy, resilience, and the long shadow of history in America. It's a reminder that ownership isn't just about paperwork. It's about truth, and sometimes truth has to be fought for. In a world where systems often doubt the legitimacy of black ownership, especially when tied to inherited land, this story reveals the quiet violence of bureaucracy and the power of resistance. The moral? What is rightfully yours may still be contested. Not because it's not yours, but because others never believed you deserved to have it. But truth, backed by courage and persistence, can outlast even the deepest-rooted injustice. And when you stand your ground, you reclaim more than property. You reclaim history. The end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift black voices and expose hidden truths.